How did your friend destroy the friendship? He was going through a bad time with the woman he was living with, and they split up. I offered to take him on a snow sports holiday. He accepted, but he was struggling for money. So I paid for him to have a place to stay, lift passes, food, etc. Basically everything was paid for and all he had to do was get there. I get a call a few weeks before we're going and he says he can't make it. Too much work because his workers had let him down. He ran a building and home improvement business, etc. blah etc. I say okay. I go away on holiday and whilst I'm away he puts pictures of himself snowboarding in Bulgaria. With his workers, the ones who apparently had let him down, saying, "Snowboarding with my mates. Another lovely day up the mountain," etc. He'd rather go with his workers than the person who met him at 12 years old, who protected him at school and beyond, who lent him money, who was his best man at his wedding, who picked up his stuff when they divorced, who knew him for over 3 decades, etc. 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 That was the moment I stopped caring for him and refused to speak to him since. On her 21st birthday I went out with her. Me and one other were the only people who showed up. She was my best friend for 8 years. She rented the duplex next to me when we moved to a new city together. I got too drunk during the bar crawl. I went to the bathroom to throw up. I come back to the bar and she's gone. The 2 guys she was speaking to were gone as well. She took my jacket which had my house keys and my wallet. Hailed down a cab, promised the driver I'll pay him when I get my wallet at home. Get home, she's refusing to answer the door. Won't answer her phone. I call this guy I just started seeing and give an explanation. He offers to have the cab driver take me there. $40 cab fare that he paid, and I had work in 5 hours. He drives me home in the morning and my friend pretends like nothing happened. I realized then our entire friendship was always revolved around her, and I couldn't remember a time she was there for me, but always me being there for her. But since then I've never had a friend to talk to every day like I did with her. My life is much more lonely, it's weird. She turned all our female friends against me at university because she liked our mutual male friend and she thought he liked me instead of her. He wasn't into her, but it wasn't because he liked me, it was because he was gay. So I lost most of my friends at university in the last year because my moron of a best friend couldn't figure out our other good friend was gay. He literally would say how didn't like the idea of sex with women, and told us how he often sleeps in the same bed with other men. The fucker went and died. He was a year older than me and was finishing up his first year of college. It was finals week and he was walking around campus and noticed a man harassing a group of women. He stepped in and ended up getting stabbed multiple times. He died in the hospital that night. His death really hit the county and university hard. They ended up honoring him with an official day of remembrance at the university to be observed yearly on May 11th. If someone did that to me, I swear I would never talk to them again. My best mate in high school. Top bloke, shirt off your back kinda fella. We experienced everything together. All the pre- and post-pubescent stuff. First fuck around with illegal stuff, drugs, drinks, you name it. At the time both of us were heavily involved in trafficking weed through our respective schools, and due to my size I was a debt collector of sorts for kids who had stiffed the local dealers. Then through an unfortunate series of events, I cleaned myself up and dropped anything that wasn't legal. Doug though, he was having too much fun doing his thing. We still caught up as often, but this time I was just on the piss, not shooting gear or smoking dope. He would always ask, I would always decline. This pissed Doug off to the point he cut contact with me one day, really abruptly. Didn't feel the need to pursue a reason. Fast forward about 10 years, Ma rings me, tells me that Doug had rocked up at my folks asking to catch up and bury the hatchet as he was clean. So she gave him me address and he was coming over. The missus didn't know about Doug and was fast asleep anyway, so I just left the door open a crack so I could hear his car pull up. Had a real bad feeling it though, to the point where I grabbed the pacifier, a length of thick red gum I'd fashioned into a cudgel from my high school woodwork days that I usually keep near the door, and slid it hidden from sight near the couch. Still didn't know why. Moments later, hear a car pull up. I go outside to meet him, and could immediately tell something was up. Firstly, Doug was fucking flying, pupils like 5-cent pieces. So much for being clean. Second, instead of his crappy Holden we used to bomb around Brody in, he was driving some old Volvo. Now I know his family was the same as mine, diehard Holden lovers, so it struck as odd as hell. Anyway, after an awkward handshake, I motioned him around the back to the shed, basically my man cave. Hit the lights, grab a beer and toss one over to him. Fuck me, he had had a rough time. Thin as a whip now, couple of dodgy neck and facial tats. He was pretty fidgety, I guess from the gear he was obviously on. He was rambling about his stint inside, not surprising, how his family had all moved back up north, and how he was clean now. I stopped him there and called him out. Basically said bullshit, can't remember exactly what I said. He insisted it was from cold medicine or something. The whole time he was looking around the shed, but only at certain things. Expensive things. Power tools. Gym kit. My gun safe in particular. I didn't like where this was going, so told him we can catch up later on the week or something, I gotta go to bed. He was cool with that, smiled, patted me on the back and jumped back in his car after I walked him out. I stick me head in to say see ya, checked the ignition, of course there was no key. Couple of days later, I note the gun safe had pry marks on the paint. Now this fucker is locked up good, solid steel, anchored to the concrete. It ain't opening unless I open it. Aussie law is pretty hardcore with that shit. Call up the cops, tell them what's happened. They come around and have a squiz. I let em know I'm pretty sure I know who tried to open it. Gave em Doug's full name, left it at that. Haven't heard from the bloke in near 15 years. Frankly don't care if I do. When he became my stepdad, he took the "your mom" thing way too far. Became supremely unhappy with himself because he traveled around the world, met some high society people and decided he wanted to join their ranks. And in his quest to do so, he became an incredibly nasty person to be around. Said things that I hope people wouldn't even think. So eventually he started thinking he would try to find ways in which he was better than me, and try to exploit them. For example, at the time he had more money and I was just out of college working a low-paying job, so he'd constantly berate me for accepting such a job, saying things like, I wouldn't even get out of bed for less than $100K a year. And then he'd talk about starting his business, and how he wanted to find in-debt college students to work for him so he could financially fuck them over and purposely treat them like shit so they couldn't afford to quit. He was given a few bucks by his parents, and it went to his head. Eventually he got this class thing in his head where he'd treat people with less money like him like shit, and would justify it by saying they were poor, and so it didn't matter and only wealthy people deserve respect. And of course, since I was not wealthy, I was in that camp too. It started to very rapidly get into psychopath territory. I tried to steer the friendship into the right direction when he turned the attention on me and basically berated me for my shitty job, but didn't have the guts to do it directly, just in a roundabout way, perhaps thinking I wouldn't be smart enough to notice. I literally got up, walked to my car and left. And as I was turning on the ignition, I decided the friendship was over. That was a few years ago, and I feel much freer now, though I regret sticking by him and trying to help for so long. She just stopped. Stopped replying to texts, stopped returning calls. I was worried for a while, thinking something bad happened to her. Then I noticed she had blocked me on Facebook. We had been close friends for almost 10 years. There were no signs, no argument, no conflict. Everything was just as it had been for years. Then one day she was suddenly gone from my life. It's been 3 years now and I still have no clue why. I respect her choice, but I really wish I could have some explanation, some kind of closure. I'm going through this right now and I have no idea what I've done to upset her. One day we're the best of friends, and then nothing. No time to get together, no efforts made to see me or ask about me, delayed, or no replies to messages and calls. Just noticed this weekend that she blocked me on Facebook. Tears. Offered to drive me home from a party when I was drunk. Raped me. Holy shit, oh my god. I hope you took it to the police? I'm so sorry that happened to you. I hope he rots in hell. People like him deserve to burn. I really hope you're recovering. It was very recent, just 2 weeks ago. Went to the police and the hospital. But not until a day and a half after it happened it took me that long to accept the fact that it had happened and that I had to do something about it. Definitely in therapy, and also coming to grips with the fact that I have a drinking problem. Not that my drunkenness is any excuse for what he did, because there is no excuse. Recovery will be a long, hard road, but I'm working on it. I was 18 and I got drunk at her house because I thought it was a safe place to do so. She was 20 and her boyfriend was 21, and he bought the booze with our money. Her dad was cool with it, and he said, "As long as you are being safe and not driving home, kids will be kids, just be safe." So me and her boyfriend, 2 other female friends, and her dad drank together. I was the youngest and the drunkest. I ended up vomiting all over their bathroom, and passing out on their futon. At about 3 a.m. her boyfriend snuck out of her room and raped me in the living room, literally right outside her bedroom. I was too drunk passed out to fight back, and I barely remember. But I remembered enough to wake up in the morning, crawl into her room, and timidly accuse him in front of her. She believed him. Friendship ruined. About 2 years later, he admitted to it, and they split up, and she still hasn't spoken to me. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.